Okay guys, today I want to do just a short video of the defining statements of each type on the Enneagram. I think this is really helpful. It's kind of simplifies each type in maybe a fresh way that you may have seen this little chart floating around on the internet, but I realize not everybody takes the time to go looking for this kind of information. Maybe you'll see it on YouTube here and you wouldn't have had access to it in any other way. So I wanted to just share it with you. Type 1, the defining statement. Now think about that, defining statement. So this, if you want to define the type in a single statement, okay, and simplify it down, I realize these are going to be very generalistic, but still quite interesting, and I think helpful in gaining a perspective, a little bit more perspective on the people that you interact with and love in life and on yourself. So type 1, the the perfectionist or the reformer. Type 1's defining statement is, there is a right way, let me show you how. Okay, so type 1 is saying there's a right way to do these things, and they feel like they know that. It's an intuitive understanding of the way things ought to be. You know, when you're done with your food, what do? You take your dishes and you take them to the sink, or you take your trash from the table and you carry it over to the trash can. And that's the right way that you should behave. Should and oughts are very important to ones, you know. And so that let me show you how to do that is, ones are also quite good teachers. And the actions that they do are often done in such a way as to show you what you ought to be doing, teach you what you ought to be doing. So there's a way in which this ought to be done. There is a way in which this should be prescribed and makes the world more fair. And if everybody would do what they ought to do, if everybody would cut their grass and wash their car and take their trash out, then we could all live in a much more organized, ordered world. Wouldn't the world be a better place? So there's a right way to do things, and let me show you how to do it. Okay, type 2, the defining statement for type 2 is, if those I love are happy, then so am I. If those I love are happy, then so am I. So the 2 is looking externally to the world around them, particularly to the people that are closest to them in their world. They're probably their family, their kids, their spouse, their parents, all the people that are around them, closest to them. And if they're looking to, what can I do to make you happy? What can I do to get you what you need so that you can be happy? And if you're happy and you're happy with me, then I know I'm a person of worth and value. And they're in that shame group of 2, 3, and 4. So they're asking questions of themselves of, am I valuable? Am I worth anything? Well, if everybody's happy with me, and I've made everybody happy, and I've been, the perfect child. And the 1 kind of has that too. I've got to be the perfect child. I got to parent myself so my parents don't have to. I've got to be the perfect child, and then I'll be okay. I'll be good. And the 2 is saying, if I'm the perfect child and I'm, the princess or the prince, then I know I'm valuable. I'm worth. It's almost like the 2s, 3s, and 4s are dealing with this question of why were you born? What validates your existence? Well, look at me as a 2. Look at me. I'm helping. I'm giving. I don't have any needs, so I'm taking care of your needs. And if you're happy, then I'm happy. Well, here's the problem. What if the people around you, in their own unhealth on the Enneagram, what if they're not happy or displaying happy? So the 2 has a real struggle because they kind of have that desire to see everybody around them taken care of, and they want to know that they're the reason that you're happy. Not just that you're happy, but I'm the reason that you're happy. You're happy with me. Well, it can be kind of a challenge to try to keep everybody in your life happy. Okay, so type 3, my worth, this is the defining statement of type 3. My worth depends on what I do. My worth depends on what I do. Think about that. My worth, my value as a person doesn't depend on the fact that intrinsically I exist, but based on what I do, or probably also maybe how attractive I am, or how admirable, I guess, I am. So they're dealing with a question of worth and value. I don't think an 8, for example, wakes up and wonders, am I worth anything? Am I valuable? An 8 wakes up and they say, I got to get junk done, you know, and I hope people don't get in my way and they aren't stupid. I got to get junk done, you know. And a 7 wakes up and says, I wonder what I could do today. This ought to be fun. This will be exciting. Realize that the other groups, the 9s, I mean, they're not primarily dealing with the question of, am I valuable? Am I worth something? I've got, you know, a lot of 3s in my life, a lot of 2s in my life, I got a lot of these people in my life, and I see it, you know, how it plays out in the real world with real people. And one of the things I hear 3s say is, you know, when they're upset with somebody, is those people are worthless. They'll say, oh, so-and-so, people that do this, people that don't do that, man, they're just worthless. And I wonder if that comes from that, you know, that always struggling with your own sense of worth and value. Like you're always trying to legitimize your worth and value. And the defining statement of the 3 is, I know I'm worth something because of what I do, of what I accomplish. So that's going to drive you to accomplish a lot. It's going to drive you, you know, to do a lot of things that maybe just aren't necessary, but you feel like they're necessary because you're trying to understand your worth and value. Okay, number 4, type 4. The defining statement of type 4 is feelings and being authentic are most important. That your feelings are communicating information to you. And that's true, your feelings do communicate information to you. But your feelings don't always communicate the best information to you. A lot of times you feel things that aren't necessarily the way things really are, but you're feeling it, so it feels like that's the way it is. And when you look to your feelings as your primary source of giving you information, just realize that there's an inherent danger in that. Being authentic, you know, being who I truly am and believing what I truly believe and getting to that core, that's a good thing. You know, it's good to be authentic. Our culture wants, I think, people that are authentic. So there's this desire. I think the way this kind of gets played out with 4s is, again, 4 is also in that shame group with 2s, 3s. They're in that group that's kind of asking the question, how do I know I'm of worth of value or worth? What makes me worth something? And I think the way the 4 kind of deals with that is they kind of evade it a little bit by saying, it's not based on how helpful I am. You know, it's not based like a 2. It's not based on what I've accomplished like a 3. I know I'm valuable because I'm true to myself and I'm not like everybody else. I'm different than everybody else. I'm not like them. And it kind of, I think, helps them sort of sidestep the issue of value and worth. Now they may also come up with, well, look at what I've accomplished through all of my creativity and my art. You know, 4s are always looking for what's different, what's unique, what's special. And so that makes them artistically minded because, you know, they're going to look at things and say, how could this be different? Or how could we make this different? Or how could we be more creative in this? Or how could we stand out in this? How could we be authentic, you know, to ourselves and to our values and all of that? But ultimately they're dealing with that same problem the 2s and 3s have is, am I a person of value? What is the real meaning and purpose of my life? And am I worth something? And I think they kind of sidestep it a little bit by saying, well, I don't have that problem like everybody else does. Other people might wonder if they're worth something, but not me. If I could be understood a little bit clear, if you guys that maybe are 4s or are close to 4, I have some good 4s in my life. I've seen some unhealthy 4s in my life too. But maybe you guys that are 4s or, you know, are close to 4s, if you can, in your comments, if you maybe just could clarify a little bit, if you can help me understand if I'm onto something or maybe I need a little bit more clarification myself in dealing with shame and all of that. You guys that understand the Enneagram, help me understand that. All right, type 5. The defining statement of type 5 is, I can only rely on myself. I can only rely on myself, type 5. I have a son that's a 5, and the stereotypes are pretty accurate, I think, for 5s. You know, they do tend to isolate themselves. The world is kind of a scary place, and so if I understand something important about the world, then I can relate to the world through that understanding of that important information. And so they kind of interact with the world through information and through, like, behind a safety glass, you know, and it's like they want to understand something fully, and then I'll be ready to engage in the world. And I think fives don't want to be intruded on. They want their space. They have that sort of, okay, remember 5, 6s, and 7 are in the fear. They have that kind of bunker mentality that 6s can sometimes have. And if I live in the bunker with my periscope up, I can kind of, you know, view in on the world and view in on what's going on out there. But I want to do it from a safe, you know, lateral position over here. I can only rely on myself. So I need to prepare myself. Other people are intrusive. Other people want to invade my space. Other people want to tell me what politics I should be interested in. They want, and 5s just in a sense are like 9s, just kind of want to be left alone. But where 9s might be just disengaged, 5s are engaged. They're mentally engaged with the world. I mean, they're always taking in information, gathering information, thinking about information, sorting through information, analyzing information. But they want to do it in maybe a safe, reclusive position sometimes. That'd be their natural bent in a withdrawn state like that. But they're still wanting to interact with the information. So I can only rely on myself. So I need to be bright, brilliant, smart, intelligent, sort everything out, figure everything out, go search for it myself. I don't want a librarian. I don't want a teacher. I don't want a gatekeeper. I want open gates and a library card, you know, so I can access that information and I'll figure it out on my own. I think that's kind of the way the 5 lives that out. All right, number 6, type 6, the defining statement of type 6. Feeling connected allows me to feel more safe. Feeling connected allows me to feel more safe. And again, 5, 6, and 7, it's all in the fear group, right? So the world's a big, scary place. And it is. All right? The world's a big, scary place. And the way the 6 deals with that fear is being close to the right people, doing the right things, puffing up against the fears and facing them head on. But probably typically it's more with connecting to the right people, making sure that your relationships, you know, are intact, and that you're not standing up above the crowd too much, standing out, and not falling too far behind the crowd. You're blending in. And in that blending in is like camouflage. You're camouflaging yourself away from your fears. So I don't have anything to be afraid of because I'm so close to everybody, I'll never get fired. I don't have anything to be afraid of because I get my work in on time and I do it according to the manual. So when they cut jobs, I won't get fired. That's kind of the way I think 6s work on their connections. The connections keep them safe. The connections keep them, you know, from being a victim, is sort of the idea. All right, 7s, type 7, the defining statement of type 7. Life is a banquet, explore it all. Life is a banquet, explore it all. So there's a lot of stuff out there. Of course, the sin of the 7 is gluttony. So what's out there that I could experience? What's out there that I could try? What's missing from my collection? And so 7s are always focused on what they're missing. They're focused on what they don't have yet, focused on what it will take to meet their needs or fill their emptiness. And now how does fear relate to that? Well, it's kind of like, first of all, the fear of missing out. You could just say it that simply, is there is fear in the 7. They're afraid that they're missing something. They're afraid that they're not that they're stuck in boredom rather than, you know, on a 4-wheeler riding it through the desert free, you know, or on a jet ski riding it through the bay free, or on the back of a horse riding, you know, through the Rocky Mountains free, uninhibited. That's what 7s. There's a fear that I'm going to be stuck in boredom and I'm going to sink in a quicksand of tedious, you know, information or tedious limitations to my freedom. But another way in which I think this plays out with fear is not only I'm afraid I'm missing something on the banquet. Life's a banquet, so explore it all. Oh, I'm missing something, so I have a fear of missing out. But I think it's a way to kind of run away from your fears. Like you can, you know, oh, mom's dying of cancer. Let's go to the carnival. See, when I'm at the carnival, I don't have to think about mom laying home being sick. So let's occupy our mind and rev our mental engine and stimulate our activity. You know, fill my mind and my face with cotton candy and clowns and trapeze artist, and then I don't have to focus on what I'm really afraid of, the dark sides of life. And so I think that's kind of how fear can play out in the 7, is they're running away from maybe boredom, tedious at the least, and then maybe just the dark things, the dark questions, the heavy stuff of life, by sort of like always occupying, themselves and their mind, and trying to keep their mind revved all the time, because they're afraid of being alone. They're afraid of sitting with pain. Okay. All right. Type 8. You have to, there's the defining statement. Type 8, the challenger. You have to be strong to survive. You have to be strong to survive. I read that to my daughter, who's an 8, and she said, absolutely. Of course. What's more important than survival? And to her, it was apparent. Like, why would anybody, believe anything else except that? And I tried to explain to her, look, dear, not everybody's thinking about survival all the time. I mean, there's 8 other numbers on the Enneagram that just don't think about, they're out to get me. Maybe 6s, share that with 8s. They're out to get us, and the 8 has that posture about themselves that, the world's tough and people are going to screw you over, and they're going to try to rip you off. They're going to try to take advantage of you, and you got to watch your back. You got to watch yourself. Now remember, they're moving away from the fear category and into the anger category. Okay, so there's still a little bit of that edge of fear, like the fear that people are going to try to rip you off, or the fear that people are going to take advantage of you, but it's moving into the anger quadrant of, and so basically what it is like, people are going to do stupid things, so you better be ready for that, and you better be ready to let them know that you're not going to take their junk from them. All right, so when people start pushing their leaves in your yard, you need to push them back. And 8s, the way that they're going to try to help somebody else is by emboldening that courage in them. So like if somebody's going through a problem, somebody's got an issue in their life, maybe the 1 is going to say to them something like, let me come over and cut your grass for you. It looks like you're going through a lot. Let me do some good work for you, right? The 2 is going to say, let me sit and talk to you, and let me encourage you and help you, and maybe prepare something, help you in some way, run your kids to the doctor. The 3, I don't know. The 4 is going to sit there and weep and cry with you and let you cry, and they're not going to run away from your pain. They're willing to go deep into that pain with you. The 5 is going to tell you, look, here's the number of a good funeral home. Here's the number of a good lawyer. I gave you the information. What else do you expect? I'm not going to get emotionally attached to this. Here's the information that you need to know. The 8 is going to try. The 7 will take you out for drinks. What's the 8 going to do? The 8 is going to say, you shouldn't take that. You need to march yourself back into that office, and you need to give them a piece of your mind, and you need to let them know they are not going to take advantage of you. So their way of helping you in a crisis is to try to embolden courage within you and help you get in touch with your courage and remind you that this world's a hard place, and you need to stand up and you need to face it head on. So the defining statement of an 8 is, you have to be strong to survive. Okay? Type 9. The defining statement of a type 9 is, every point of view has value. So, what are they? Peacemakers. And that's true. Every point of view does have value. It may not have value to you, but it does have value to somebody. And so, if you were to tell that to a 9, or you hear that as a 9, you go, well, of course. Why wouldn't people want to know every point of view before they act, before they make a decision? And I think that may be one of the things that keeps 9s from being action-oriented people. Remember, they're in the withdrawing state. I think that, well, how do I know I have every point of view? I mean, maybe I need to just keep thinking and keep waiting and keep listening, because I don't know if I can act yet because I haven't heard every point of view. And so that sometimes can keep maybe 9s from taking action when they need to take action. Maybe they can just continue to sort of sit in that thinking and feeling zone, dream zone, we should say, and separate it away from action, because how do I know I've heard every point of view yet? And that's what makes 9s good peacemakers, good mediators, because they're going to listen to people's points of view, and they're going to help work to resolve and reconcile these differences between people. So I think this is a really helpful tool. It's very simple. You can find it if you start searching for defining statements for each type. And then what's cool is when you start thinking about your relationships with people. You know, when you think about, you know, let's say you're a 6 and your defining statement is feeling connected allows me to feel safe, okay? And let's say you're married to a 5 and that 5 spouse of yours thinks I can only rely on myself. Okay, you can see there's going to be some issues here. I can pretty much predict, you know, some of what issues you're going to have in that relationship. Is the 6 wants to be connected in order to feel safe. The 5 wants to keep a distance between themselves and others and say, look, I don't want to depend on anybody else. So I'm going to be careful about who I'm connected to and how deep these connections run. So you can see that there's going to be some tension here in this relationship, and you can almost predict what that tension is going to look like and who's going to feel it the most. In other words, who's going to be the pursuer in the relationship, who's going to be the withdrawer in the relationship. So if you think about these things and then, you know, put your name in here on one of these numbers and put your child or your wife or your parent in the other number that's appropriate to them, and you think about, you know, the defining need or the defining statement of you versus the defining statement of this other individual, you can see how sometimes maybe we can have more compassion for each other. The Enneagram helps us develop more compassion, more patience, more steadfast, long-suffering, whatever you want to call it, with each other, be more understanding of each other. All right, guys. Till I see you next time, be present to life. If you want to get in touch with me, my information is down below in the contact information below this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.